After 2.5 years, as it turns out, the British press and the palace were entirely right when it comes to Meghan Markle, despite her trying to spin this narrative that she was the victim of the relentless and brutal British media, something that the American outlets picked up on and really championed in many ways, especially with their reality TV show, Harry's book, and all these sorts of things. As it turns out, that might have been all poppycock because the Hollywood Reporter, which is unconnected from the palace. They have no connection to the palace. I doubt they have even any sources at the palace. Is reporting that Meghan Markle's allegedly bullying ways has continued since she left the UK. And this, for her public reputation, is an absolute disaster because Meghan needs a good public reputation to move forward. She needs people to work with her, people to invest in her, people to help her business grow and thrive. And the Hollywood Reporter, via her current and former employees, have told the rest of the world, hey, think twice about working with Harry and Meghan. She makes the wrong decisions. She doesn't take advice. They're terrible to work for. And for Meghan, who is struggling at this point, especially with American Riviera Orchard, their deal with Netflix and everything, they don't have much going for them. They desperately need the trust of Hollywood. And I think that has been irrecoverably broken because if you are bad to work with, if you are difficult to work with and you have no talent, that kind of thing gets around. But what I really want to focus on today, because we've done a separate video on the initial report from the Hollywood Reporter, is an additional video we got from one of the Hollywood reporters on Access Hollywood, talking a little bit more about how they got 12 sources to talk to them, current and former employees. But the most critical thing, and the thing he said, which I thought, oh, wow, this really turns the tables, is saying that essentially, well, as it turns out, maybe everything that was said about Meghan Markle in the UK media and via the palace, maybe, just maybe, it was all right. And Meghan is the one who has been misleading people. So we will go into this today. But if you guys haven't been to Royal News Network before, hello, my name is Brittany. I provide compelling royal commentary. So if you guys want to hit that subscribe button, I would absolutely love it. We have such fun here. And if you're loving my jewelry, I have my Ana Lucia on. I have these hoops because I took them out because I got these new earrings from Anya, which is Chelsea Davies Jewelry Company. But I'm loving all of course, my Ana Lucia stuff. And so I just wanted to show off these gorgeous hoop earrings today. And they are absolutely fabulous and amazing. They got lab created diamonds in them. Look like the real thing. Absolutely fabulous. So if you guys are interested in that, I will put a link up above. I would love to have you check it out and let me know what you think. And if you use a code ROYAL20, you shall save 20%. And that is a fantastic deal because good jewelry is hard to come by. And Ana Lucia does that, and you get great jewelry, not only great jewelry, but great jewelry for great price. And that is what everyone is looking for. So when it comes to Harry and Meghan and this whole Hollywood Reporter thing, it was kind of odd initially because it wasn't seemingly to gain any traction. I was actually one of the first people to do a video on it. And I called it, of course, Dictator in Heels, because apparently that is sort of what Meghan Markle is like. She's a dictator in heels. But as it turns out, the Hollywood Reporter has finally gotten some traction. The article is currently number 3. I imagine maybe it was number 1 at some point, but now it's moved down to number 3. Why Hollywood keeps quitting on Harry and Meghan. And this was just an expose about how terrible they are to work for. They also put on this very unflattering picture of the two of them. And so it was really definitely, you could say, I don't want to say a hit piece because I think it's true, but it's very much a piece that hasn't really hit Harry and Meghan while they've been stateside. And the one thing I wanted to point out here real quick is just go over again what was said because maybe some people didn't hear initially. So here is the bit that covers really what the allegations are against them, that everybody's terrified of Meghan. She belittles people. She doesn't take advice, which we've seen with the, again, disastrous rollout of American Riviera Orchard. I imagine people told her, hey, don't do that. Let's wait until we have certain things secured before moving forward. And she's like, well, I want to move forward. And she did. And it's a wreck. And said they're both poor decision makers. They change their minds frequently. Harry is a very, very charming person. No airs at all, but he's very much an enabler. And she's just terrible. Still love that. She's just terrible. And then it talks a bit about how there was obviously in 2018, there were some allegations of bullying within the palace. This didn't really make the press until March 2021 via Valentine Lowe in the Times of London. And so she at the time called it a calculated smear campaign. But then it seems like, and essentially we're getting sort of the same reports that we got in the initial British publication. This is new, the penchant for noisy tantrums, but the angry 5 a.m. emails has earned her the in-house title Duchess difficult. And this actually started in the UK. It was reported in the UK that she would send out emails at 5 a.m. And again, if you are a person who's up early in the morning and you're trying to get a start on your day and you send a couple emails to your staff that you're not expecting to be returned by like 10 a.m., 11 a.m. or something, because they're not urgent, most stuff isn't. That's totally fine. But I think she's sending them at 5 a.m. and expecting a response at 5:15. And it goes on to say she's an absolutely relentless, marches around like a dictator in heels, fuming and barking orders. I've watched her reduce grown men to tears. And so, why does all that matter? Well, all that matters is because Access Hollywood has gotten some additional details from the Hollywood Reporter. Because when you make a report like this, you want to share your findings broadly, especially because initially, again, this was for some reason just not getting a lot of traction. I'm still not quite sure what the deal was because it took a good 24 hours for the Brits to finally pick up on this news cycle. And about 2 days later, one of the reporters attached to the piece went on Access Hollywood. And when he just said, well, we kind of heard this stuff and we thought maybe it wasn't true. And we're getting the same reports that it is true. It's like, wow, Meghan has just proven that maybe, just maybe, the British media wasn't lying about her. And that has grave implications for her because Meghan already has this track record of not telling the truth. And so you add this additional on top of it, and she has spun this tale for so many people in the industry. And if it's all not true, then she has no leg to stand on. So let's take a look at part of the video here.
The reporter talked to, I think, a dozen people. Most of them are people who have worked very closely with the couple in various capacities.
So the one thing we got here, I didn't know how many people had talked to the Hollywood Reporter. It's actually a very small piece, really. The Times report was much, much more detailed. It was very, very small, but that he says that there were 12 people who contributed. That means that there's a lot of sources for this, and there is more. There's possibly even more to come from this because I imagine they have some pretty good evidence. Now, I know California is a two-party consent state that in order to record someone, you have to get their permission. But I imagine some of that is not the case in whistleblower type situations. Then that two-party consent might not apply. California is a bit hit and miss on how they evaluate this. But if Meghan and Harry are doing or allowing terrible things to happen to their staff, that can't be glossed over for so long, even though Meghan Markle's trying. She's trying. She's got to look charitable. Can't not look charitable, even if she doesn't actually practice charity. So again, let's go on.
Now and previously.
The article comes on the heels of news last month claiming that the couple's chief of staff, Josh Kettler, left his post after only 3 months on the job, which we are told was a trial period and a mutual decision.
So this again goes over something that Kettler tried to preempt in the press, which was basically Harry and Meghan's spin that, oh, he was just a temporary employee. It's like, no, he wasn't a temporary employee. You don't hire a guy like that and make him a temporary employee. That's not how this works. He was a professional. He was high ranking in Patagonia. He doesn't go on a trial basis. Like, that's just ridiculous. But that's how they tried to spin it. And once again, you can see where their kind of lies and half truths are really beginning to catch up with them.
Kettler has not returned our request for comment.
Our reporter talked to one very high up source who works for the couple who said everyone is terrified of Meghan Markle.
So again, he kind of has a smirk on his face because he's kind of like, wow, listen, everybody's terrified of her. I mean, what I find so interesting about Meghan and Harry in some ways is that they're two people really with no power, but they're very litigious. They will sue over anything and everyone. And the thing is, I know some people are like, well, she's so tiny. How can you be terrified of her? Well, it's kind of one of those things where I think she does like really is able to be somebody who really destroys somebody's confidence. And so you're almost, I hate to say it this way, but it's almost kind of an abusive relationship where you're kind of still there because you feel like you can't get out, but you want to get out, but you can't get out and you're scared of this person and like all these sorts of things. It's a very complicated dynamic, but that she is again being called this calls into question every negative thing she's said about being in the UK. If this is still going on, then this is not a British media problem or a palace problem. It's a Meghan problem. Meghan's the one who's the issue, and she's the common denominator and sort of everything.
Hollywood Reporter quotes the sources saying Meghan, quote, belittles people. She doesn't take advice. Harry is a very, very charming person, no airs at all, but he's very much an enabler.
And again, I like to talk about and call out that advice thing. If she can't take advice, again, I think she goes back and yells at people when things don't go right, even though they gave her the right advice for the situation. But she didn't take it for X, Y, and Z reasons, but she still gets mad at you. And I imagine that's really hard. But I want to highlight this too, because I think they said it in the initial article, but I think I have some thoughts about it yet again.
In a 2022 episode of her Archetypes podcast, Meghan passionately opened up about being labeled as demanding during a conversation with Issa Rae.
You're allowed to set a boundary. You're allowed to be clear.
Yep.
It does not make you demanding. It does not make you difficult. It makes you clear.
So I gotta pull that. She's like, it makes you clear. Yeah, but it's how you deliver it. It's how you set expectations for people. And what's so disturbing is I've seen a lot of Sussex supporters going, well, I need to know how to make a grown man cry. Like, bravo, Meghan. It's like, really? So you guys are all just endorsing the abuse because she's your savior? Like, this is not appropriate. I don't care who it is. Catherine, William, Charles, Camilla, Maxima, Wilhelm Alexander, you got Victoria, Madeline, you got King Felipe. There's two of them, one in Belgium, one in Spain, Queen Letizia. Like, none of these people should be abusing their staff, and they don't really have any allegations of abusing their staff. There is no excuse for Meghan Markle abusing her staff just because of the color of her skin. That does not excuse her abuse of her staff members. That's not what it does. Again, all this is allegedly, because you kind of have to say that. But if all of what they're saying is true, and we have a pretty good track record at this point, no matter who she is, it does not excuse that behavior, nor is it good. Like, why are you championing this person who's awful to other human beings? Why are you doing that? Is it because you're an awful human being? I don't know. And again, yes, we have heard, I've read Valentine Lode's book, which is very good. It's called Courtiers. It's very, very good. And one of the things he says is that Charles, yes, does have dust ups from time to time. He gets irritated. He kind of maybe will yell at his staff members or something like that. But he's very conciliatory. He's like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to do that. Let's go back. And he does that. That's what good people do. Yes, because everybody has their moments. I mean, I saw Sussex people kept pulling up, well, Anne has been reported as X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, who cares what happens to Anne? This does not excuse Harry and Meghan's behavior. They're totally deflecting from it or embracing it, going, I just need to know how to do that myself. I'm like, yeah, that's maybe not totally a good thing. And that's maybe why nobody likes you in the real world. Just saying, if you are like that to people in the real world, you don't really have friends or family. What you have are people who live in fear of you, people who think you're useful, or people who are just trying to stay out of the way and have to associate with you. That's sort of the situation here. And again, there's just no excuse for this level of behavior. Zero, none, nada. No excuse for this. It is terrible. It is awful. And that Harry and Meghan's supporters are championing it is obviously a huge part of the problem and shows where their, I guess you could say, I don't know if you want to call it loyalties, but where their senses really rely. They would rather see people abused and save Harry and Meghan than they would having Harry and Meghan be accountable for their actions. And so again, this could be, I would imagine, now I don't know this for sure, and I can imagine there's going to be more to come. So let's keep listening here.
Duchess Difficult is a nickname that's trailed Meghan Markle for quite a few years. What is new is this notion that coming to America, that a lot of those rumors were manufactured by the palace.
Okay. It's huge that he acknowledges that there is huge. It's massive. We were told, you could say, Hollywood Reporter, the Hollywood community was told these were a manufactured smear campaign by the palace, that none of this is true. That's all of it's made up, yada, yada, yada. But now they're hearing within their own industry that it's true. And again, I posited it in my first video about this. What I think these people are trying to do is warn others in Hollywood, hey, you were told basically a lie. You were told a lie about Meghan by Meghan and her team. That is that everything that was written by her in the UK was wrong, and it was just against her because they didn't like her because of racism, because she's a woman, a feminist, whatever. But no, what the Hollywood Reporter has found out is that Duchess Difficult name was gained for a good reason. Didn't come out of nowhere. It was gained for a good reason. So let's keep going.
There's a hierarchy of the family. there's leaking, but there's also planting of stories.
So Harry obviously said that in the Netflix show. And yes, sometimes staff members do share stories. But the thing is that they probably share the stories. Harry and Meghan blame Catherine and William and other members of the family for leaking these stories. Well, maybe it was the two of you treating your staff terribly is why these stories got leaked in the first place. Had nothing to do with Catherine and William, Beatrice and Eugenie, Andrew, Anne, Charles, Camilla, whoever. It was just that you guys were terrible. So your staff members had a route to get you back, and that is via the press. And so they can go to the press and whisper in their ear real quick and go, yeah. Or in the case of, I can't remember if it was Rebecca English or Victoria Ward, one of the British press people who were on tour with Harry and Meghan saw their security guard crying after an event. So they're not stupid. They can see with their own eyes. But the American media, again, they're not savvy to what's going on the UK side. So they're like, okay, well, Harry and Meghan could be right. You're also trying to think as well, this is as the whole BLM movement is rising, is where Meghan is pulling all this. And so everybody's going along with it because it fits that narrative. And no, it's still the same thing here in the United States. Oh, that's a problem. So let's keep going.
And the reporting that we did suggests that probably isn't true, that there is this still undercurrent of fear.
An insider.
Gotta love that. Still an undercurrent of fear that is manufactured by Meghan. She wants people to live in fear of her because she has this inflated ego because she married Harry. And I think the ego was always there. We have heard stories of her not being great when she was filming the Wrightsmans commercials. I stand by as well. We don't have really a ton of stories from the Suits cast of how wonderful and amazing and all the things she was. Like, they've been pretty quiet in many ways, I think, because they know who she is. And they knew that, well, they could say some nice things about her, which are somewhat true, but they couldn't go too far because then they would at some point maybe be called out as liars because other things would come out because they all knew this stuff. And Hollywood is a contract-based industry. So you go from project to project to project. And so if you want to maybe work with Harry and Meghan, or if you are kind of in the loop to work for them again, you don't necessarily want to offend them or offend somebody connected with them, like Oprah Winfrey, although I don't think Oprah and Meghan are really friends anymore. But you don't want to offend Oprah if she's connected to Meghan, because then you might not get a job. And Oprah Winfrey is very powerful. That's why Meghan cultivates these friendships as well. It's because all of the connections within the industry, if she is friendly with powerful people, then other people might think twice about speaking out against her, because if she's connected to them, well, then it's not just Meghan and Harry who have really nothing going for them at this point in terms of projects. They have almost nothing. But if you're wanting to work with somebody else connected to them, well, don't offend them, because then you might miss out on that opportunity.
Tells The Hollywood Reporter, Meghan marches around like a dictator in high heels, fuming and barking orders. I've watched her reduce grown men to tears.
It's just so sad. But then they bring this out, and this is so lame.
But Meghan's friend and facialist, Sarah Chapman, who is...
If you're a friend and a facialist, you don't really have a leg to stand on. This is so dumb. These are like the worst people to pull out, is their friends going, well, they're great. Yeah, you're their friend. You're not their employee. Get a former employee of Meghan Markle who worked with her for a long time to tell us how she is behind the scenes. Then the whole story changes. Her friends' comments mean nothing.
Staunchly defended Meghan, paints an entirely different portrayal of the Duchess.
And this is entirely critical here. Meghan is two-faced. She can be perfectly pleasant, wonderful, and lovely to people she considers and wants to be that way with. And then she can turn on a dime and be utterly nasty to somebody in a different situation, especially people who are below her. There are two sides to Meghan. The side you see that she tries to tell everybody is real, and the actual real side of her, which is not a pleasant person. None of these descriptors of her as an employer are pleasant. And I imagine that means she's pretty unpleasant at home too, in many ways. And again, I don't think the royal family knew all of this stuff, especially when she initially married in, but I think they had some inkling. There was definitely some worry. She's always interested in, you could say, climbing the social ladder. So if you are convenient to her, she is nice to you. But if you are not convenient to her, you see a totally different side. So again, what this person says, and I think this is an old interview too, it's completely and utterly meaningless.
On the many occasions that I've been with her as a friend or in a professional capacity, I've never seen a negative side to her.
If you've never seen a negative side to somebody, you don't really know them that well. Everybody has a negative side. We're all human. We all have bad days, bad weeks, bad months. We all have times where we're not our most perfect. I will have to say, apologies to the poor TSA reporter guy because I had my Whittard's hot chocolate and I was bringing through, and apparently they look like a bomb. So next time I will put those in the checked bag, not the other bag. But anyways, I had to sit there while this guy goes through my entire bag, pulling out those canisters. And it's like I had just gotten off a long flight and everything. My mom was trying to be nice, but I was probably being crabbier than I should have been. But we all have our moments. Oftentimes, I'm very pleasant, but I'm human. I'm human. We are all human. So we all have our bad moments. If you've never seen a bad side to a person, then I would question how well you actually know them.
Seen a very trustworthy, very honest, very compassionate person.
Two things.
Trustworthy, compassionate, honest, especially the trustworthy and honest, I question highly. Meghan is not trustworthy. She is not honest. We have seen this play out time and time again now. She twists the truth to suit her narrative at a particular point. And because of that, you can't rely on her information. And what he's saying here too is like there are two sides to her. The side you see that's nice and that she usually tries to promote to the public, and the real side of Meghan Markle.
Could be possible at once. The couple does help a lot of people. Meghan and Harry declined to comment for our story. I think maybe Meghan would have said that barking around orders is something that we expect from men, would never raise an eyebrow.
Okay, I hate that notion, and he's right. She would go, well, he wouldn't accuse a man of barking orders, and I'm like, but that doesn't excuse, he should be called out for doing the same thing as well. And again, it's not just that, it's a dictator in high heels. And I think especially for the highly accomplished professionals they hire, that they're not taking advice. They make the wrong decision every single time. Despite being given evidence to the contrary, they change their minds all the time. So it's hard to work for somebody like that because you can't trust them because they're constantly changing their mind. And it undermines what you're trying to do with them because they're so finicky. You need a clear vision, which Harry and Meghan lack, which I've said so many times is they don't have a clear vision. So all this just confirms what I've been sharing for years. And I guess, almost for years. So I will say that. But yeah, they have no overarching vision to what they want to do. So looking at all this Hollywood Reporter stuff, their narrative is being dismantled yet again because it was always false in the first place. Now let's get something interesting here as well, which is the Express. Now I don't really believe the Express has any deep insight into Harry and Meghan's camp. I did think this was interesting that they are said to be deeply concerned over the timing of the article. Well, duh, you time an article, you time a story when it might be most advantageous to spread in the news. And of course, Harry's 40th birthday. That's perfect. So goes on to say the Sussex team has had more than enough of these type of articles. It's simply not true. Then why are people still reporting it? The stupid stuff doesn't work. If it is somebody from their camp, them or whatever, trying to spread this nonsense, it doesn't work. It's been reported too many times. If this is getting out all the time, when there is smoke, there's fire. If there's nothing wrong, then why do these narratives keep spreading? Why did they continue growing? It's because that's the way you're acting. This kind of stuff, I feel like, oh, they've had enough of these articles. It's just not true. Is a lie. Is a lie. And they know that. And that's why it's so dumb. Don't do these kind of things because they just don't play well. They just don't play well, to be honest. It says everyone is deeply concerned over the timing of the article because it was published just days before Harry's birthday. Yeah, like it was published initially, the bullying allegations in the UK, days before their Oprah Winfrey interview. Why? Because people are tired of the lies. The people who work for you have seen the real you, and they're tired of you lying to the public and promoting yourself as this sanctimonious person. They're tired of it. They've seen the real you, and they are trying to let the rest of the world know what you're seeing. This facade is a lie. That's what they're trying to let the rest of the world know. And it's Harry and Meghan's problem that this is spreading because they're the ones who went along with all this. Because they're the ones who are treating their staff poorly. There are fears that there could be a disgruntled former employee staff member who is putting out mistruths, which are designed to make them look bad. Try 12, guys. And then all the people from the UK. There are a lot of people who are reporting the exact same thing. And then they added, the focus for the Camp Sussex now is to build on the success of the last year and to take that positive momentum forward into 2025 and beyond. There's been no success this year. You guys are floundering. You guys have no clue what to do. Like, that's ridiculous. And again, this all comes down to one singular notion, which is that Meghan Markle spun a tale for the world, particularly for the United States, playing on the racial tensions that already were growing in the United States. She played on that to tell the world, oh, the British press, they're racist. The palace is racist. Everybody's against me. They're also mean to me. And it's nothing to do with me. It's not my fault. And I just have to share with you how great and wonderful I am, and you will believe me. But the Hollywood Reporter is saying, well, we're hearing something different. And in fact, if what the British press is saying is true, then she's the liar. And it calls into question basically everything. You have the British media over off here to the side going, we're calling out different things that they're doing. And the American press or people on the Sussex side are like, oh no, that's not right. That's not right. But it is. But it is. And so this leaves Harry and Meghan with a challenge as they go into the last couple months of the year. Can they right the ship? The only way they can do that is by admitting in some ways that yes, what the British press, the palace, everybody was saying about Meghan Markle was true. And going from there, apologizing to their staff, maybe making staff changes, acting better, but they're not going to do that. They're not going to do the things that are going to help fix their image. They're just going to keep going down the track that everyone's lying. We're just the sole bearers of truth. Well, that's not going to work. And I think they're going to have a real hard time finding more staff members because people are going to look at that and they're going to go, yeah, no. And again, the thing that I come back to is when it comes to Hollywood, and I feel like anywhere in the industry, Elon Musk is sometimes hard to work for. Bill Gates, like all these guys, the high big wigs, they're challenges to work for because they're very intelligent. They're very sharp. They keep you to a high standard. They have big visions and everything. And yes, doesn't excuse any of their bad behavior either. But sometimes, oftentimes, if people see brilliance, if they see somebody who has a vision, if they are able to see someone who is going to do great things and can bring you along with them, they're willing to endure that for a certain period of time. Harry and Meghan don't have that. They have a cratering business. Their ship is sinking. It's half sunk already. And they don't have much to lift people up. But it was funny because, again, Harry and Meghan think somehow that their friends are going to help them. So Harry and Meghan were at this tennis fundraiser for their friends. And the woman, her name is, I believe, what is her name? Kelly McKee Zeffin said that at the event, Archwell Foundation was part of it. And Harry and Meghan, you have been such a guiding light to our family, not just in the way you have shown up in friendship, but how you have shown up through the incredible work the Archwell Foundation does every day. And as someone said, we're all waiting to see the work the Archwell Foundation does. I'm in awe of your commitment to community and to friendship. On behalf of the Alliance for Children's Rights, we thank you. On behalf of our family, we love you. Extra special day. Happy birthday, H. Which again is kind of, that's almost kind of offensive because should he be Prince Harry? Because she would definitely call Meghan the Duchess of Sussex. But when you look at this couple and what they've said, it's like, it's meaningless. Harry and Meghan, if they really want to make change, if they really want to have an impact in how people see them, they need to stop trotting out their friends who they see in very limited circumstances to tell us all how great they are. We need to see it. We need to see it behind the scenes, in front of the camera, behind the camera, all these things. And it's just not happening. And I can see just by observation as somebody who knows just a smidge about business, how terrible Meghan Markle is in American Riviera Orchard. She keeps making every single wrong mistake ever. And so because of that, it's just, you look at her and you go, she's a mess. And yes, that's just my personal opinion. You could have an issue with that, but I think other people see that too. And so as Harry and Meghan move forward, they need to stop relying on their friends and stop blaming everyone else for their mistakes. Harry and Meghan are the problem. And the only way to solve it is for them to acknowledge some mistakes somewhere down the line. Stop blaming everyone else and take responsibility for yourself. But I think there is, at least for all of us in the royal watching community who have said time and time again, Harry and Meghan, there's issues, there's problems, all these sorts of things. It's so comforting to see a large organization like the Hollywood Reporter going, yeah, it seems like all those people were probably telling the truth. And so we'll see how Harry and Meghan deal with it, because at this point, they have no response. So guys, let me know what you think of this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I shall see you very, very soon. Bye.